Hello and welcome to Certified Reviews. I'm Syndi, and today we are going to be taking a look at the new FX/Hulu limited series Fleishman is in Trouble with Jesse Eisenberg, Claire Danes, Lizzie Kaplan, and Adam Brody. Recently divorced 41-year-old Toby Fleishman dives into the brave new world of app-based dating with the kind of success he never had dating in his youth before he got married at the tail end of medical school. But just at the start of his first summer of sexual freedom, his ex-wife Rachel disappears, leaving him with 11-year-old Hannah and 9-year-old Sully, and no hint of where she is or whether she plans to return. As he balances parenting, the return of old friends Libby and Seth, a potential promotion at the hospital that is a long time coming, and all the eligible women that Manhattan has to offer, he realizes that he'll never be able to figure out what happened to Rachel until he can finally face what happened to their marriage in the first place. I always find it interesting when women or a female identifying person decides to center their story around a male protagonist, because it's not necessarily their lived experience, but I do find that you get a more nuanced look at masculinity overall, and maybe you can explore some things through a male body that you can't really do as a female. I think that one of the strengths of the show is that everyone is very complex, and you get like a very 360 look at their lives, and it feels very relatable in that way because it's not just telling a story from one person's perspective. It's very much, you get a lot of different perspectives. I also feel like the deconstruction of Toby is also like a deconstruction of the nice guy trope, you know, the guy who seems like, you know, he'll do anything for his wife, and he's such a good dad, and you know, he's a doctor, so he's healing people, but he has some serious blind spots, and he has some serious like issues that he hasn't worked through. And you can very much see like a Toby in the world and see them and think, wow, this is a really great person. But then you look at the flashbacks, which is a lot of how this show tells you the story, where you see that he can be very cruel to his wife, and sometimes kind of just pawns his kids off to kind of do whatever he wants now that he's liberated. It's very interesting to like see his characterization. I think Taffy did a really great job at fleshing him out, making him very well-rounded. Like, there were episodes where I really liked him, and there were episodes where I really couldn't stand him. But that's also Jesse Eisenberg just being like a really great actor, and just, I think, really understanding the character in all the levels. Moving on to Rachel. So Rachel is played by Claire Danes, and I just feel like the casting was so good because Claire Danes has that thing about her where, like, not about her specifically, but about a lot of the characters she does play, where it's she always plays like these very powerful women who are just like breaking down, like just not doing well. I think it was interesting to look at the idea of the controversial bad mother, you know, the mother who doesn't care about her kids or who's choosing her career over her children. And I think they did such a good job of exploring that through Rachel and through Lizzie, or Libby, in the show. And through Toby's lens, you can see, okay, like, where is Rachel? She's not answering calls, she's not answering texts, she's vanished off the face of the earth, her kids don't know what's going on. It can very easily seem like, okay, well, Rachel's the bad guy in this because where is she? She's nowhere to be found. And through his flashbacks, or through his perspective of their marriage, it's like, well, this was inevitable. Like, she was always a terrible mother. Like, she never cared about the kids. And then in the final, I think it was the second to last episode called Me Time, you finally get Rachel's perspective on the situation. And it's so much more complicated than that. Rachel's also coming from a completely different background. Like, she hasn't had the privileges that Toby's had. She's had to work for everything. Like, she didn't grow up wealthy. So her mindset is like, I have to control everything in my life because so much of my childhood was out of my control. Like, my mother passed, I didn't have a connection with my grandparents. I had to like strive to get to the place where I am today. I was always an outsider. and she still feels that way. And it's just very true of people who like find their way into like very high society, where even if you get there, you still don't feel like you belong there. So she's having like a really difficult time, and that impacts how her relationship with her children are. And it also affects her marriage, unfortunately. So it can come off very much like Toby is a great dad and she is the bad mom. But again, like I said, like men don't get treated in that way, where the expectations are so different in terms of how society views gender roles in family, where it's like if the dad shows up and actually does like a little bit above the minimum, they're just lauded as great parents. And I can make an argument that Toby wasn't always a great dad throughout this show, like, but because he was there, you know, and she wasn't, you can see how people can feel like a little, you can have preconceived notions about how you feel about both of these folks. I like that they didn't box women into like, this is the role that you're supposed to play. It's very much like fluid, like, I don't know, I'm a person. I don't have all the answers right now. Like, I can't tell you where I am or what I'm doing right now. And I don't think I've ever seen that in a show or in any type of media where women are just allowed to just be a mess. And I really think that's great. Another issue I had was that all of the relationships were heterosexual. Like, that seemed weird to me. Also, there are very few people of color. So it was very straight and it was very white. Like, it just was truly confusing to me how that made any sense. This show discusses time. That's like the main theme of the show, is time. And time wasted, time spent, and also an envy of your younger self, because all of these people are middle-aged, so they're looking back on their lives quite a bit. They're trying to understand where they are right now and how they arrived at this place, especially after striving for years to get to a place of security and safety that they have been told is important to have as young people. And it's interesting watching this now because I'm in my mid-20s. I'm in my mid-20s and I'm kind of hoping that like this doesn't happen to me, where I'm looking back, you know, at my life 20 years from now filled with regret. I hope that doesn't happen. Maybe this was a cautionary tale. So other than that, I did find the writing and the story overall to be very smart and witty and introspective. It asked a lot of good questions and it raised some interesting points. And I really liked that a woman was behind the creation of the story. It just made for a more interesting watch. I recommend that everyone check this out. I am giving this show, Fleishman is in Trouble, 7.5 out of 10. If you watched Fleishman is in Trouble, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the